Welcome to this explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled you're tuning in today because we're tackling something that is literally a game changer. We're going to explore this wild core premise. True success, true survival requires mastering two completely opposite forces. On one side, we've got the hard, mathematical logic of business strategy. And on the other, the intangible and honestly sometimes dangerous emotional forces of human behavior. It's going to be a wild ride.
Okay, so let's quickly map out our journey today. First, we've got the roadmap to control, then forecasting your financial future, followed by the three pillars of finance. After that, we pivot to the dark side of influence, defending your own mind, and finally, mastering numbers in mind.
Let's jump right in. Section 1. The roadmap to control. Structuring your vision. So, to get started, we need a roadmap. And according to our sources over at Growth Grid, that roadmap is your business plan. But actually, scratch that. I want you to shift how you view this document. It isn't just some boring, overly complex paperwork you churn out to beg for a bank loan. No way. It is literally your business's GPS. It forces you to think critically, and it gives you that absolute strategic clarity you need to make smarter decisions right from day one. Now, taking control of that GPS means getting incredibly specific. Instead of just aiming vaguely at the entire world and crossing your fingers that someone somewhere buys what you're selling, you have to narrow your focus. For instance, looking at our Antler source, you defined a highly precise geographic target market. You map out your total addressable market, your serviceable available market, and your serviceable obtainable market. Basically, you're filtering down from the total possible audience to the exact, realistic market you can actually capture. Think isolating specific regions, places like Denmark, Finland, Norway, Sweden, the UK, and continental Europe. Remember, precision is control. Moving on to Section 2, forecasting your financial future, building the model. Now, according to the experts at Jumpstart, financial forecasting can feel super intimidating, but honestly, it really shouldn't be. Here's the secret. Unless you've got a time machine hidden in your garage, financial modeling is entirely about creating logical, well-researched assumptions. That's the whole shebang. You are simply making educated predictions about your business's growth based on past knowledge or thorough research. Let's actually look at how these assumptions play out with variable expenses. Notice the breakdown here. If your packaging costs exactly $3 per unit, well, your total cost is driven entirely by the amount of units sold, right? Sell 100 units, it costs you $300. Sell 100,000 units, it costs $300,000. Variable expenses are tied directly, and I mean proportionately, to your production. And this next bit brilliantly illustrates how cause and effect drive your revenue. Because, revenue doesn't just happen by magic. Notice the distribution here. If you assume you have, say, 20 customers, you can break down your total sales by percentage. Maybe 70% buy a $10 product, while 30% splurge on a $40 product. The point is, once you lock in your assumptions, you can actually forecast the future. All right, Section 3, three pillars of finance, the interconnected system. So, your financial control relies on this beautifully unified logical system. Notice how these documents are connected. The income statement, the cash flow statement, and the balance sheet, they are absolutely not isolated. The net income from your income statement feeds directly into your cash flow statement, and then your ending cash balance becomes a core part of your balance sheet. It's like a giant puzzle where all the pieces just click together. Listen, if you take away just one thing about finance from this explainer today, let it be this incredibly powerful analogy from Jumpstart. Your burn rate dictates your survival. A business can survive for a little while without the food of profit. I mean, a lot of startups do, but it will literally die instantly without the air of cash. To put it bluntly, you can never, ever run out of cash. Okay, let's take a breath. We've spent the first half of this explainer looking at pure, unadulterated logic. You've got your GPS, you've got your interconnected financial statements, you have total control. But let me ask you a slightly vulnerable question. You've controlled your numbers, but who is controlling your mind? Let's explore that in Section 4, the dark side of influence, the rules of dark psychology. So this number 1 here, it represents a massive illusion. In business, we love to think of ourselves as number 1 in rationality, purely logical beings, just like those spreadsheets we were just analyzing. But guess what? That is exactly what manipulators want you to believe. Rule 1 of dark psychology from our translated Hindi source completely shatters that illusion. Humans are actually driven by fear, jealousy, and excitement. I mean, think about a time you bought something just because a salesperson said it was the last piece in stock. That wasn't logic, right? That was the fear of missing out completely hijacking your decision-making.
Bad actors often operate like a silent virus. They don't have to yell to manipulate you. Instead, they use fear to weaken your critical thinking. They use repetition because our brains are literally wired to start believing a lie if it's repeated enough times. They use the silent treatment to break your confidence, fake confidence to deceive you into handing over money or trust, and isolation to make you entirely dependent on them. It's heavy stuff.
Which brings us to Section 5, defending your own mind, recognizing the traps.
A classic trap to watch out for is the intense whiplash between Rules 4 and 11. Manipulators desperately crave your attention, so they'll start with love bombing, just bombarding you with messages about how incredibly special you are. But then, they follow it up with sudden, totally unexplained coldness. This creates deep emotional confusion. You start scrambling for their approval, and before you know it, you're emotionally addicted to the cycle.
Another massive trap is social proof, which is outlined in Rule 9. Look, just because a crowd or an entire market is rushing in one direction doesn't mean it is logically correct. Manipulators use the illusion of a crowd to completely bypass your critical thinking. It spreads like wildfire. You must always check the data for yourself.
And please, never forget these two concepts. Manipulators use guilt as a weapon to force you to break your own boundaries, making you feel like you somehow owe them. Furthermore, Rule 13 states it clearly. Whoever has the most information holds the power. If you hand over all your secrets to a business partner or a friend way too quickly, you are essentially handing them the keys to control you. Finally, Section 6, mastering numbers and mind. Total control. As we bring this explainer to a close, I want to leave you with this punchy and honestly somewhat unsettling truth from Rule 15 of our dark psychology source. Physical control is an illusion. True control is mental. It simply does not matter how perfect your business plan is or how well you've mapped out that European target market we talked about. If someone can manipulate your thoughts and emotions, they can change your entire life. So, here's your homework. I want you to take everything we've covered in this explainer today and apply it immediately. Look closely at your business partners, look at your friends, and look hard at your own spreadsheets. Ask yourself, are you truly the one in control? Stay sharp out there and keep learning.